Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this Gradcracker webinar with DNV. I would first like to introduce the Gradcracker members of the panel. So my name's Carla, a director at Gradcracker, and I have worked with Steve and DNV for a number of years, I'd say nearly 15. DNV advertise their degree apprenticeships, placements and graduate opportunities on Gradcracker, which will be live very soon. Jess?
Hello everyone, my name is Jess and I am also marketing director here at Gradcracker. My role is to make sure everyone who's interested in the world of STEM, whether they're studying a degree or thinking about studying a degree, are aware of all of our amazing employers and obviously DNV.
And there are lots of employers. So thank you very much for that introduction, Jess. So during this webinar, our aim is to find out a little bit more about DNV. So we'll talk about who they are, what they do, and also what opportunities you, our STEM students, can apply for this year on Gradcracker. Starting with Steve, our contact, will introduce you to the business and obviously their opportunities, which, as I mentioned before, will be opening very shortly. We will then speak to the rest of the panel about what life is like for them, what projects they've worked on, if they're involved in any networking groups, what training and development they have received, their future plans, and also their favourite times so far at DNV. We will then end the webinar by discussing the recruitment process and giving you an idea of how you can be successful. The students at that point will also give you a bit of an insight about how they went through the recruitment process and also what it's like to start at DNV and the time between being offered an opportunity and starting, anything that you can get up to during that period of time that you're waiting for. So Steve, hello Steve. Welcome to the webinar. Hello, nice to have you back. So my pleasure. So can you tell everybody a bit of an overview of your role at DNV?
Yeah, thank you for having us, Carla and Jess. So my role is that I'm responsible for all of our recruitment in our energy business within DNV, and specifically here in the UK and Ireland. That also incorporates our early careers recruitment. So as you mentioned, all of our graduate roles, placements, summer internships, and also our apprentices. I guess my role is that I work with a lot of our managers right across our UK and Ireland business, really trying to identify the best possible recruitment strategies and plans to help us attract talent into our organisation, not just focusing on specific skills and experience they bring, but really focusing on the behaviours and motivations of those to help them grow and thrive in our organisation.
Perfect, thanks, Steve. And the plan was that Steve was going to describe DNV in 60 seconds, but apparently that's changed to 120 seconds. So, Steve, I was trying to add up 60, add 6, and it is 120, isn't it? Steve, in 2 minutes, describe box ticking DNV.
Yeah, when I said 2, I really meant 3.
I knew. Right, you've got less than 5.
I was going to haggle. Right, so I guess the first thing is DNV as a global organisation is a large international business employing around 16,000 people. However, as mentioned earlier, I look after the UK and Ireland energy business, or energy systems as we call it. Sounds a bit weird, but that's what it is. So globally within our energy business, we've got just over 5,000 specialists, of which just over 820 of those are here in the UK and Ireland regions. So we're one of the biggest regions for energy within the UK, within our global business. The work that we do is really varied. You'll hear today from our colleagues about the sorts of things that they get involved in. The things we do are very complex, very technical sounding, and certainly, I mean, I'm a history grad, so being a non-STEM person, they all sound just incredibly amazing, the sort of things that we get involved in. So I think the simplest way I can try to describe it is hopefully everybody watching this will understand that there's a real critical need to change how energy is produced, transported, stored, and used, and to transition away from using traditional fossil fuels to much more greener, more decarbonised and sustainable solutions. So we, as an organisation, advise companies, organisations and government bodies and institutions on the best way to make that energy transition. And we support those organisations through technical engineering projects, policy development, safety management, innovative research, and also looking into the greater use of AI data and new technologies. So we work right across the energy industry. So we support people across oil and gas, electrification, power grid utilities, all the way through to renewables, so wind farms, solar storage, etc., etc. And I think that the other, just in closing, final thing to say is that our clients come to us because we've been going for 160 years. We're a very, very well-respected and trusted organisation for supporting our clients with some of the most complex and challenging problems that the industry faces. The other thing, as you'll hear as well, is we've got a full-scale explosion and research site in Cumbria called Spade Adam. I think Pippa will probably tell you a little bit more about that and the things that go on there. But a lot of the stuff that we do is looking at innovation research around how we drive towards net zero, so the use of hydrogen, carbon capture, storage, etc. And I think the final thing I just want to say is that everything that I've just said is focused around our central purpose. So everything that we do is around saving lives, protecting property, and also saving the planet to create a safer, greener, more sustainable future for future generations. And that's what is meaningful to our people. Sorry, I did say 3 minutes. I think that was just about 2.5.
I think you said this is the final thing about 3 times as well, just so I didn't get cross with you. I did note that. Yeah, okay, that's fine. As long as we're on the same page.
Tactics.
I know you too well. I mean, DNV, I think, Jess, me and you have done, I think this is the 3rd or 4th webinar that we've done now with DNV, and honestly, it does blow my mind about what you guys get up to. It's absolutely amazing. And we know we are going to talk about explosions because Jess loves talking about explosions. So we're going to come to that a little bit later on with Pippa. But Steve, staying with you for now, what are the common misconceptions that you'd like to cover about DNV as part of this webinar?
Yeah, I don't know if they're common, but I think the things that one of the challenges we have is we're a B2B organisation, you know, and we're not an organisation that you see advertising on TV or on the radio. So a lot of people, unless they've done a specific degree where they've been involved in some of our industry standards or have had guest lecturing from some of our people, they probably don't know too much about us. So I think that the misconceptions bit is probably a little bit off the mark. But I think one of the things we do find is that people think that we are an organisation that owns oil rigs, gas platforms, wind farms, pipelines. We're not. We're a consultancy organisation. So we provide advice and guidance to those who do own and develop and design and maintain and operate those sorts of assets. And I think that's really useful to understand, because that means people get to work on a much broader portfolio of projects than just working for one organisation. So yeah, and also I think because sometimes people see that we're engineering orientated, they think the only degrees we look for are traditional engineering disciplines, chemical engineering, mechanical, electrical, and so forth. They're not. We also have a lot of people who bring other STEM subjects specifically, you know, maths, chemistry, physics, and also a lot of the more data-driven and analytical type of subjects as well are really valuable to us. So I'm not sure there's misconceptions, but they're things that we often need to explain to people to make sure they realise that we're not an operator or a producer of energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Steve. And, you know, for those of you who don't know who DNV is, this is why you're sat watching this webinar with us, and hopefully we'll give you even more of an insight into what DNV do. And don't forget, the place to go is the DNV hub on Gradcracker. And Steve's been working really, really hard with our colleague Emily at Gradcracker as well to bring the hub right up to date when they do open their opportunities. So make sure you go have a look. Watch the video content on there, you know, read all about who DNV is in more detail. And Steve, before we hand over to Jess, I know we said at the beginning of the webinar that your opportunities aren't currently open. They will be opening soon, you know, in the next couple of months or so. So the message for the students who are watching is go and follow DNV. And then when Steve does open the opportunities and they do go live on Gradcracker, you will be the first to know via email and push notification as well. So give them a quick follow. And Steve, a brief overview of what you expect to be opening in the next couple of months.
Yeah, you always shout at me that I haven't got as many openings. So, no, I think
It
you're
is
right.
naughty. We did say that we were going to be open for today, but
Don't tell me I'm naughty. That's not. Get so bullied. Yeah, so we normally spend the last part of the year just clearly devising what sort of roles we are looking for. We're slightly different to some organisations where you just apply to a general programme. We try to advertise very specific roles, be them graduate roles, apprenticeship roles, or placement and summer internships, so people can hopefully get a bit more information about whether or not it resonates with them, rather than just applying to a more overall program. So we will have graduate and placement opportunities right across our organisation, across the various teams and departments that you'll hear from in a few moments. But also we should also have some degree apprenticeship opportunities as well. Admittedly, they may well be focused more at our research and testing site in Cumbria, but there could well be a couple of other ones across some of our other offices.
Perfect. So basically, watch this space, people who are watching this webinar. And thank you very much, Steve. You've been absolutely brilliant. We'll come back to Steve towards the end of the webinar to talk a little bit more about the recruitment process. But for now, we've got a lot to get through. So I'm going to hand over to Jess, who's going to speak to the rest of the panel.
Perfect. Thank you, Callan. Thank you, Steve. Alicia, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to get through, haven't we? So if you could just tell us all a bit about yourself. So where did you go to university and what you studied, and yeah, why, really?
Yeah, so I studied at Cardiff University. I studied electronic and electrical engineering, and ended up doing power engineering, specializing in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of accident most of the time.
What was it? What was your initial attraction to study that at uni?
Well, I wasn't sure. I quite liked science, and then
Did you? Yeah.
physics or engineering, and then what kind of engineering, wasn't sure, so I applied to general courses.
Yeah.
And then as I got to application acceptance day or whatever, I thought maybe more mechanical and electrical, and then a year into my degree, that's when I just went electrical. So it was totally process of elimination.
Do you know, and that's one of the reasons why I like to ask that question, because sometimes, again, I had a session this morning at Westminster, a load of first year students, and they're kind of sat there thinking, you know, what do I want to do and where am I going to end up? And it's all right to not know, isn't it? It's all right to think, I don't know where, you know, I'm going to end up next year, the year after, or even when you start your graduate role. So fantastic. So also I want to know a bit about the role that you're currently doing now, Alicia. So if you could just tell us about your current role and how long you've been in that position for.
Yeah, so I'm in renewables, but more specifically, I'm in a team called Power Grids and Connections.
Okay.
So Steve mentioned the transport of energy, so that's what we help advise on. And I've been at DNV for a year and a half, so I joined summer before last.
Has it flown by already?
Yes, yeah.
I can imagine it has. Perfect. Thank you so much, Alicia. We're going to come back and find out a lot more detail a little bit later on. But I do believe we've got a question, haven't we, Carla?
We have, yes. So thank you, everybody, who submitted questions for the DNV webinar. We've had a lot that me and Jess had to kind of whittle down, and we've just chosen a few. So hopefully your name's going to get mentioned. And this is from Felicity at Oxford University. So Felicity asks, and this is for you, Alicia, if you don't mind, is sustainability something that is important to you? And what are the plans for DNV to become more renewable in the future?
Yeah, part of that's quite tricky, but definitely sustainability is very important to me. You know, I'm very lucky getting to work in renewables in DNV, and specifically in Bristol, because we're part of a legacy company, Gradcracker, who was instrumental to wind energy. So yeah, I've been really fortunate being in renewables and being with like-minded people. In terms of what DNV do, it's an interesting one. I think it's always good to see it as an energy transition, and in terms of transition of people and companies. So we do work with oil and gas. I think DNV is in quite a unique space because, you know, I know not too much about the oil and gas side, but I know that a lot of the people who invest in renewables are also these traditional oil and gas companies. So if we can get them in with oil and gas and then help them transition, you know, then and we're doing that ourselves with our personnel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect, lovely. Thank you very much for that, Alicia. And hopefully, Felicity, that's answered your question. Back to you, Jess.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you for everyone who did submit questions. George, I'm going to come to you next. Similar kind of questions. So just to introduce yourself, can you tell me a bit about what you studied and where you went to university, please?
Yeah, so I studied chemical engineering at the University of Birmingham.
Yeah.
I chose that coming out of school because I really enjoyed chemistry and maths. I found like came quite naturally to me, so I was looking for something kind of like an intersection. And yeah, also I sort of obviously the prospects look good for it. That was another one. That was a big one. But I think I saw it as like an opportunity to do something where I could have an impact with the work that I was doing. So
Yeah.
whether it was like working on sustainability or safety or anything like that, there's a lot of sort of global challenges that chemical engineers have like a well placed to contribute to.
Yeah. So going back to Felicity's questions, like then I would say for you, sustainability was quite a personal thing that you were interested in then, was it, assuming?
Yeah, definitely. Always like just loved like nature and stuff as a kid. So I think growing up, I was like, "It'll be nice to do something that's sort of
Save the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and tell us a bit about your role now then, and how long you've been in that position for.
Yeah, so I started in February 2023, so it'll be
Okay.
like 2 years in February. I started in an asset data analytics team, and they basically look at they do sort of like data analysis, statistical modeling of gas and electricity assets. So like your gas networks, all your pipes going down your roads and everything. Looking at basically doing a lot of data analysis and like modeling of those assets to help the companies pick which are the right ones to replace when, looking at sort of the safety of the network, etc. But then I did a 6-month rotation that I've just finished into the performance forecasting team, and they do like reliability engineering. So they do studies of like industrial processes. So traditionally it used to be oil and gas platforms, but now they're transitioning a lot to more like renewable technology. So I did one on a green hydrogen plant. It's a big study looking at like what equipment they've got and what happens if it breaks and maybe what they can swap out to make it run more efficient. And yeah, I've just finished that now, and I'm back with my old team.
So with those placements then, did you get to pick where you wanted to go, or was that something that maybe a mentor or someone helped?
Well, with that, so I want to get I'm trying to get chartered with the with ICME, and I sort of spoke to my line manager about it when I joined, and she said that they'd support me with like if there was any work in different teams that I wanted to do that I'd need for my chartership. It's quite a big application. You need quite a breadth of experience. So yeah, she said like, you know, if there's anything that I want to do, this opportunity came up to work in the performance forecasting team. I thought it looked really good, would help sort of tick a lot of those boxes. So yeah, they let me just go and do a sort of 6-month stint in that team, which is
fantastic.
Yeah, really helped me, I think, get the experience I need.
Well, that kind of leads nicely on, because we actually did have a question from Matt at Birmingham University, and Calla, he wanted to know, didn't he? He was about chartership.
Yeah, so Matt's question, again, for you, George, was about chartership and how DNV is helping you to achieve chartership. So you've obviously mentioned about the different rotations that they've put you on. Anything else that they've done to help? And also, just following on from that as well, why is it so important for you to get chartership or become chartered?
Yeah, I'll start with the second bit. I think it's important for me because it's essentially like a seal of approval in engineering. So if you've got it on your resume, it sort of says like this person knows what they're doing and can be trusted to, you know, do whatever job you're doing, be it like designing some equipment or helping with something. So it's, yeah, I suppose it's like a sort of trust and responsibility thing. And so that's why I wanted to get to do it. And I found the company to be really supportive of that. So with IChemE, I don't know about the other institutes, but we're on an accredited training scheme. So you get a mentor basically that guides you through the process, helps support you with anything you need to get chartered, and that scheme includes elements of the grad scheme, so different courses on sort of like problem solving, project management, and then the more soft skills. And at the end of it, you'll get a box ticked that sort of allows you to get one step closer to your final submission. But that I've just found, it's sort of incentivized quite a bit, and my manager's been really supportive of me with that rotation, and also with any future work. If I want to go and do a bit of stuff with like the safety team that do big risk assessments and things like that, I know that I've got that opportunity. So
thanks, George. And just to ask everyone, I know we haven't done official introductions yet, but just give me a nod. Is that what everyone else is working towards? And it might not be necessary for you yet, Pippa, but Emily, Wiz, Dyla, are you all working towards chartership? Alicia? You're not, are you?
Not yet. I think I'd like to, but
okay.
Maybe it was talked about quite a lot at university, and then when you get to work, it's not as important. Maybe for electrical engineers.
Sure.
It's been my experience, but
maybe one day you've got the option, which is good. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for that, guys. Next, Adila, I'm going to come to you. If you could do a bit of an introduction, please. Similar kind of questions. Where did you go to university? What did you study, and why?
Hi. So I went to the University of Derby. I studied electrical and electronic engineering. So the question why, it's one of the things, because we in our generation we've seen like the need of transitioning to a greener energy and a greener power in some sense. So a personal interest, it was I was more interested in power engineering or in the power specialty in electrical engineering. So I chose the electrical and electronic to help with that, to try to understand what sort of challenges we will have, and knowing that is the future. I mean, of course, not only to electrical engineering. I mean, we get the support from all other engineering disciplines, but back then that was my thinking in some ways.
Yeah, definitely. And tell us a bit about your current role and what life's been like for you so far at DNV.
So I am a graduate electrical and instrumentation engineer. We are in the offshore infrastructure.
Okay.
We mainly work on oil and gas, but we are also involved in the substations for wind turbines, for example, and we are getting more involved in hydrogen, green hydrogen. So my role is, or our role is, to verify new assets, new projects. We verify the electrical equipments and systems. We make sure they meet the correct standards, the correct safety standards, functionality standards. So I mean, the team I work in is only electrical and instrumentations, but as a department, we see it all and we work together, as we have mechanical engineers, we have process, we have structural. So it is actually a collaboration between many engineering disciplines in some sense. But then you go to a micro sort of team, which is only electrical. So it's quite a mix. Yeah,
I bet that's quite good to get that experience as well, so early on in your career, to be working with so many different types of people, and to get the experience obviously in the oil and gas sector, because where the world is going now, coming away from that as a source of energy, to get that experience that maybe quite a lot of others wouldn't necessarily get.
No, absolutely. It is it's the transition towards renewable. It's good to have the foundation of the old school sort of thing, but it is very, very good having the collaboration with other engineering disciplines, because especially at this stage of our career as a graduate, I believe I'm building a very good knowledge foundation to base the rest of my career on it. and use the skills that I'm going to be gaining in these few years in the future renewable projects, which is the future. Yep.
And Dan, sorry if you said this, how long did you say you've been at DNV for?
Not very long. I've been in DNV since September this year.
September.
Wow.
So not long. Not
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, not long. Yeah.
And how have you found the last few months? Been good?
It's been very interesting. That's what
Has
I
it?
would say. Really interesting. It's a big learning curve, and it's filling up my curiosity. You know, every day it's a new thing. Every day learning a new
Oh,
thing,
that's
which is
good.
amazing.
Yeah. And that's a great thing. You know, you want to be curious at this early stage. Find out as much as you can. Be like a sponge. That's really, really good. Do love that word, sponge. Emily, coming to you next. Thank you very much, Sally. We will come back to you a little bit later on. But Emily, similar kind of questions, if that's okay. Yeah, where you went to university and what you studied and why.
Okay, so I went to Aston University to study maths, and I just graduated this July, and I started at DNV at the beginning of August this year.
Yeah.
So I've been here for just under 4 months now, and I'm part of the risk advisory team at Loughborough.
Fantastic. So maths. So tell us a bit, you know, was this, again, thinking about your passion, did you personally have a passion for sustainability? And was that one of the reasons why you were attracted to DNV? You know, why really? Why did you apply to DNV as a maths student?
Well, I think it was a thing of, like, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do when I first started university. It was like, I really enjoyed maths at A level. And I loved the like problem solving and the analytical side of it, but I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it. And I felt like maths at uni would keep a lot of doors open. And yeah, I think it was mostly for DNV why I chose that was because I did like a fluid dynamics based project during my final year. And then I saw during the when they posted my job description for the one I applied for, that also was somewhat connected to fluid dynamics. So that was a thing that really attracted me to it. But I think it also, the fact that it does tie into sustainability is also just like a nice addition.
Yeah, so an extra cherry on the cake, as the saying goes. So Emily, coming a bit back to your kind of current role then. So you haven't been there that long. August, did you say you started? So what's your role now and what have you kind of been up to since then?
So I'm a technical safety consultant. And so that's kind of looking at, you're kind of given projects and you're kind of looking at two main things, which is kind of what can go wrong, which is the consequence side of things, and then how likely is it going to go wrong, which is more like the frequencies. And yeah, it's just like doing a lot of calculations to try and establish what the risk is of these different projects and how they'll affect like the environment and the people who will be exposed to it.
Oh, I can't wait to find out when we talk to you about projects a little bit later on the detail of that, because obviously, as Steve mentioned, absolutely paramount at DNV is health and safety. That is what ultimately you guys are all about and delivering that service. But yeah, how can you be responsible about, you know, for something like that, and how can you get to those answers? I bet it's quite, is it quite stressful, Emily? Have you found that it's been a lot of responsibility?
I think they've been really good with the fact that it's like a massive like responsibility, but it's not being put on you as somebody who's just started. It's like it's very well like distributed amongst people who are like ready for that kind of responsibility. You never feel like you're too burdened with kind of a task that you're given. And it's like, you know, there's always going to be like somebody checking it, so you're not going to do anything too major or anything too wrong.
Yeah, good. That's nice. And you feel as though you've got that team, that network of people that you can ask.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What is your team like then? Is it quite a big team that you work in, or?
So I think the risk advisory team, there's like 3 main sections, and I'm part of a team that is like mostly maths people or like have done a lot of programming for the like the packages and stuff that are kind of used in the background. But kind of the 3 kind of teams do intermix and kind of have similar sort of like tasks that they do. So you can kind of go to anybody. They kind of all have like an awareness of what the main tasks are.
Yeah. Perfect. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Emily. Like I said, looking forward to find out a little bit more later on. Wiz, I'm going to come to you, if that's okay. Again, similar kind of questions. Where you went to university, what did you study and why?
Sure. Yeah, so I studied at Leeds, and then a little bit unusual for DNV, but not unheard of. I actually studied medical sciences. So like Steve mentioned before, I probably fell under the umbrella of sort of data, that sort of, I don't know, data-centric degrees. So yeah, I sort of did that. It's a bit of a weird one, really. I kind of got pushed to do it by a careers advisor. So I worked for a year after I left college, I did like 2 maths and biology A levels. And
Okay,
I was
yeah.
kind of, either basically, I didn't know what I worked for a year and then decided I wanted to go to university. I spoke to a careers advisor and they said, like, yeah, just get something in STEM. And I didn't want to do maths, so that kind of left the sort of more biology related stuff.
Yeah.
And the degree I chose had quite a lot of sort of statistical work and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I still got to sort of, I don't know, I could use my skills across it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wait, sorry, I'm just going to cling on that for a second, just because, again, this morning, my session that I did was with some first year students, and my lovely academic there that I work with, gave me some of his time to speak to his students, and they were studying life sciences. And that's exactly what I was trying to say to them. I'm like, you don't realize how many transferable skills you're going to learn over the next couple of years. You might not see it now. You might be thinking, oh, these different companies are not related to me, but they absolutely are. What would you say to any student that was like you now, doing a degree, maybe, medical background, whatever, what big transitional skill or transferable skill, sorry, would you say that you've brought to your graduate role stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose a lot of just, I don't know, sort of like,
I'm putting you on the spot, I know, but I'm just like,
yeah, I'd say a lot of, I did a lot of sort of like numerical work as part of my degree.
Yeah.
And I think we do that with most STEM degrees, and you can kind of change the context of that numerical stuff, but you can still use it. So yeah, my line manager made me change my email handle right now to engineer. So like I'm an engineer by
really?
That's my title, but I mean not by training essentially. But yeah, I suppose also just like a lot of wider sort of research skills. So like the 2 teams I've worked in have been quite different. So I started off, I've also rotated like George has. So I started off in the growth and innovation team, which predominantly like does work in new areas for sort of DNV energy systems. So I worked on a project that was sort of on AI. So this is going to be a tangent. Stop me if I'm going too long. But that was kind of again, that was just like your ability to learn and like research. I had to read papers and stuff, and that was something I did in my degree. And quite easy transferable. And then the team I'm in currently right now, I basically I'm in the energy analytics team in the wind department. So I basically forecast how much energy like a wind farm will make, and that's essentially all data handling. So yeah, once you kind of learn the context of a wind farm, quite a lot of it is sort of similar statistical skills. It's what I used at uni, just not for like medical stuff or so, yeah.
And you said that was obviously maybe a personal passion, obviously doing medicine or kind of doing that kind of, you want to make the situation better. I'm guessing you're a bit of a problem solver.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit weird. I don't know. I kind of did it because I was told by a careers advisor to be good things and keep options open, and also had a lot of the transferable skills. But I suppose I was sort of attracted to. I've always found like the energy system very interesting, and specifically right now it's like changing lots. There's also just lots of different aspects to it, which I think DNV is quite like indicative of as well, right? So I don't do any safety work. Everything I do is will be like as part of a transaction, so it's economic. It's economic risk. So it's a bit like the energy system is just there's lots of moving parts, like literally and sort of metaphorically. So that's something that I found really interesting, and like is also in a big change. Also, it's great to be like part of something wider, like a global problem that you're sort of doing your little bit to contribute to as well.
Absolutely. Wiz, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Again, I feel like I could pick your brains about loads of different things there. So no, I really appreciate that. And sorry for chucking you a little bit of a curveball there. And Pippa, last but absolutely not least, I do apologise. It's 30 minutes into this webinar and we're only just doing introductions, but there's lots I want to talk to you about as well. So your journey is a little bit different, isn't it? So you are currently on the degree apprenticeship programme. So again, tell us a bit of an introduction to why you still go to university, don't you? Is it a couple of days a week, or tell us about it.
So it's done on block release. I've only just started as well. So I started in August, and yes, I've just finished my A-levels, and I'm at the University of Wales, Trinity St David's. My campus is one in Swansea, so a bit of a trek from the very north of England. So we're on a block release because day release just wouldn't work. So it's about 2 weeks every roughly 6 weeks.
Okay.
So I'm usually back up at work for about 4 or 5 weeks at a time. Then I go back down to uni for 2 weeks to just do blocks of learning, usually about 4 or 5 hours a day. And then the rest of it is like to try and build up what you need to do for uni. So like your coursework you'll do while you're down at uni, but you're also given like a day or so a week at work to get your uni coursework done. So if I ever need more time, I'll just speak to my line manager and be like, hi, I need some more time to get my uni stuff done. It's not going to be done by the deadline. So they're really flexible in how much time they can give you. They can give you so much support at work as well. My course is Ordnance, Munitions and Explosives.
Right.
So a little bit different from everybody else. It's still like an engineering based course. So I'll come out with a bachelor's of engineering at the end, but it's more explosive than everybody else.
So Pippa, you are the reason why this webinar is named why it is. But to go back one step before I get too giddy and start asking about what you've been blowing up this week, why degree apprenticeship? Because, you know, it's still quite new. Quite a lot of, you know, maybe students that are doing their sixth form qualifications at the moment might not even be aware of degree apprenticeships and the options that they can give you. You know, why and how did you decide that this was going to be the option for you?
Well, at first, I didn't really know about it myself. I'd applied for uni, as almost everybody at my school had done. I'd been accepted into university as well. So I'd applied for mainly like engineering, mathsy kind of courses at uni. And I was like, well, so everybody else is doing, I'll just do it as well. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was just going to go with everybody else. But then I was speaking to my careers advisor. I was like, I'm not even sure this is the right idea for me to go to uni. And he was like, well, why are you going to do it then? I was like, I might as well. And then he was like, well, has anybody told you about degree apprenticeships? I was like, well, I've heard about them, but like, are they actually any good? And then he was like, well, it's the exact same as getting your uni degree, apart from your workplace will pay for it. It'll take only 1 or 2 years longer. For mine, it takes 2 years longer, so I'll be in uni for 5 years. But you're working while you do it, so a lot of the stuff that you learn, you're learning on the job. So when I go to uni, it's almost like, oh, well, that makes sense. I did that last week at work, or I'll learn it at uni, and then I'll go back into work. I'll tell my manager, oh, this is what I learned, and they'll be like, oh, well, great, you can work on this project because it'll help you build up on that.
Amazing.
So it's quite a good combination of like, you don't just have to be in a classroom all the time. You can actually learn things out on the job, and that's what attracted me to it. So I applied for like engineering based degree apprenticeships, and then this one came up. I was like, well, sounds like the most fun, so for this one.
Absolutely. So well done. And right, so tell us a bit then what you actually do get up to on a day to day. And we keep talking about blowing things up, but how does that really work, and what have you really been up to?
So it's not like most offices. It's a very outdoorsy kind of place. It's like 1 kilometre long. It's like one main building, loads of other little sheds kind of thing. So like there's loads of different test areas. They're all like, well, most of them are like massive concrete pads, and we can blow things up on them. And so usually like a day-to-day life for me would be, at the minute I'm kind of paired up with like the head engineer, so I follow her around quite a lot, and she'll give me like little side tasks. So she's working on a lot of hydrogen projects at the minute, so a lot of calculations need to be done for a lot of different things. So she'll be like, oh, can you do these for me? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So then she'll check over it, make sure I've actually done it right, because I'm still new. She's not just going to let me go crazy. And then so that's what I do for like 90% of my time. I'll be like working with her, and her projects are a lot longer, so it's not every day I'll be seeing stuff blow up. But Ewan, who's been on here previously, he's more outdoorsy because he's slightly further on than me at the minute, so I'm still kind of learning the basis for a lot of things. But about 10% of my time is spent with him and like the other guy that's part of his team, and they'll do so it's like rail tracks. You need to blow them up to harden them to be strong enough for a train to go across. So a lot of our stuff is that, and that's like weekly work. So we'll do that like 2 or 3 times a week. So I'll be taking that with them, and we'll get to do that. And then they also let me do it at my interview as well, which is a very good bribing tool to get me to start. So yeah, it's like they're like just like the little ones. But every so often, like, well, maybe once a week there'd be a big explosion on site, but every day there's always little explosions going off everywhere.
Wow. So just for the audience sake, so Ewan is a lovely gentleman that we've spoken to the last couple of years when we've done a webinar with DNV, and he is also doing his degree apprenticeship, and we've kind of followed him over the last few years and spoke to him on the last few webinars that we've done. You can read more about his story on the degree apprenticeship section and on the DNV hub. But yes, that's who we're talking about when we mention Ewan. Pippa, tell me as well, so why really are you blowing things up? You've mentioned there that example of obviously the railway tracks, which is good, but ultimately what is the plan there and why are you doing what you do?
So a lot of our stuff, so obviously Steve mentioned at the start, we're very client to client kind of company. So clients will come to us with problems or new ideas. So obviously we're in the energy transition at the minute. Hydrogen is a massive part of that, but it's also quite unknown of what will happen in certain circumstances. And you can't just go testing this in massive cities and be like, oh, it'll be fine. So they come to us and be like, well, what is the worst case scenario? What would actually happen if this failed, or if that failed, or if we put all of this hydrogen here? Is this all right for other people to be near it? So we will do like a lot of almost all of our big testings at the minute are based on hydrogen, and it's how safe can it be, and what is the worst case scenario. So we're where you can test the worst case scenario basically. So a lot of people do test it, and it doesn't always end in an explosion. It sometimes goes great. There isn't any worst case scenario, but there is sometimes a worst case scenario, and that's when the
controlled
explosions do go off.
Yeah. And Pippa, can I just say, and I don't mean to, it's got nothing to do with age or anything like that, but how amazing you are. God, you wouldn't think you've joined DNV at this early stage. You've just completed your A-levels. You can talk so well. Honestly, I'm thinking, gosh, we're absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for that fantastic introduction. I believe we've also got another question that's come in, haven't we, Carla?
We have, but I think that you can tell that you haven't read it, my sweetness, because I think Pippa's already answered it.
Yes, she has.
So that was just to shout out Connor at the University of Nottingham. Thank you for asking that question, and Pippa's already answered it. So we can go and talk about projects now.
Yes, I'm looking forward to talking about projects. Are we all right for time?
We are.
I think we could do this webinar for 3 hours, I think.
So with Steve, no.
Steve, you've done very well actually so far. I know 40 minutes in and you're doing good. You
are doing good. He's smiling away. So I keep checking on him. He's all right.
He's all right. He's all right. Are you drinking?
Water. Are you drinking?
Are you drinking? Only water, yeah, obviously. That'll be tonight. We'll have it. Oh, I can just murder a pint. I'm joking, honestly. Right, anyway, let's not be silly. Alicia, I'm coming to you. I want to talk about projects. Now, tell me what you've been involved in so far and all the great things that you've been doing. Is there a particular project that you've been working on since you've been at DNV that's stood out to you?
Yeah, so I think what I thought of for this was, being part of Power Grids and Connections. It sounds a bit vague, but to make a bit more sense, we work a lot with kind of government organizations and transmission network operators like National Grid. And this was for a transmission system operator. And they were rolling out offshore wind along really long subsea cables, and they were basically like, okay, how do we do this? What do we need to be thinking about and planning for? And it was really interesting because it could be super technical. So I was doing this with the wind team in renewables, and we were getting to talk to lots of really clever experts across DNV. So we ended up actually working with people in South Africa because they had the knowledge we needed, which is pretty indicative, I think, of DNV. I mainly work with like Dutch people and South Africans because they have the same interests as me. So that's the one we were looking at. If anyone, electrical, like reactive power compensation and harmonics.
It means nothing to me, but it sounds fantastic. So I'm just going to nod along and say, great. But how long was the project? How long did it last for? Was it a successful outcome?
Yeah, so it was about 12-ish weeks. We were working really closely with our customer, having weekly meetings and just having really interesting conversations. I learned a lot. We wrote a lovely report and we did some workshops, and they wanted more work, which I get to be involved in as well.
Well done. Got DNV some more business. That's fantastic. And again, really great way to network with so many different people. And it sounds as though all your experiences have been like that so far. You're really getting that chance to network with some fantastic people working across so many different industries as well. So a real draw there. So thank you so much, Alicia, for that. George, I'm going to come back to you on projects and things like that, if we could. And also any kind of training development that you've received so far in your role. You've mentioned a bit obviously about chartership, but yeah, particular project and then how you were supported through that as well.
Yeah, I think the one that probably stands out the most for me was a big one that was one of my first projects that I started. I think been there about a month and I got started on it, and essentially it was a big bit of a deterioration analysis for the gas networks. So like I need to give some context, but like your gas network, it's all over the country. There's like millions of like pipes that go that you've got high pressure transmission system, and then the pipes go off almost like your veins in your arteries. So this is like the sort of veins and arteries going off, and they go right the way up to your house, and they're really old, some of these pipes, old iron pipes, some of them, and they can leak gas and potentially explode and blow up houses. Wouldn't get worried about it. Obviously doesn't happen that often, but it is something that has to be looked at. So the networks are trying to figure out which of these pipes to replace, right? So there's certain ones that they're mandated to replace by like law. And the piece of work that I did was taking data from all these different networks, about like 2 million failures of pipes, and on over like I think 800,000 massive bits of data. It was crunching out all the numbers, exploring it, and then building like a statistical model to forecast how they deteriorate over the next 30 years and which ones are maybe worse than others. It was really technical, lots of problem solving that I was sort of doing from the offset, and I had quite a lot of input into how it was done and the sort of the methodology of it, which I found sort of really satisfying. Like I wasn't just being sort of drip fed tasks to do them. It sort of after a while sort of became like I was mostly working on my own with it, but always supported by people more senior that knew what they're doing if I was ever stuck. I think that's sort of on the support side. Like I quite like working independently and trying to figure stuff out myself, and I found that that's been sort of like recognized, and I'm left to do it myself, but I know that the support's always there whenever I need it, as opposed to being sort of like like micromanaged, which I wouldn't get on with as much. But
that's good to know as well. I think actually that's a really good point, because I think that's the thing, for some people you might want to be drip fed, that work, but if you aren't like that, you get that space to do it, and you get that time to figure it out, but also you've got that safety net if you do go, actually no, this isn't right, I need some help and I'm not sure what to do next. Really, really good that you've got that. So thank you, George, for that. Dan, I'm going to come to you next. It's a similar kind of question in terms of project or anything you've been involved in, and any additional training development that you've had.
Yeah, so I haven't been in the company for a very long time, but one of the project I can think of, it was 3 weeks ago. Sorry, we actually went to the client office, and we did this workshop. It's about an already completed project, which lasted 3 to 4 years. So the workshop was to determine the challenges and the improvements that could be done in the future projects. So I was involved in that. I was in the meeting, and I got a chance to meet the client. So my role was to write the report, actually, of the potential improvements and sort of lesson learned from the previous project. So I wrote the report for it, and it was very good, because I got the chance to speak to lots of engineers who were involved in this project, and really learn from them and learn from what sort of things that can be improved in the future projects. So I think that was one of the outstanding, in a way, projects that I've been in it. Also, so what sort of trainings? We get the we get like online trainings within DNV. I got some sort of technical knowledge online trainings that I've already done, and there are some future ones are planned. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I'm just thinking
Thank
about
you.
the social aspect, and I'm going to come to you, Emily, on this one. If you could tell us a bit about maybe any kind of social things that you've been doing since you've joined DNV. Have you had any kind of networking groups or anything like that you've been involved in?
So at the Loughborough office, at least, it's a pretty like chill and social office to be in. It's like we take regular like breaks together, where if you kind of feel like you've been sat at your computer for a bit too long, you know, there's probably somebody else who also feels like that. You just like drift off to the kitchen to have a chat for a couple of minutes. Kind of frequently, we all go down to the pub together or go into town, which is quite nice. I think especially was like during my first week on the first Friday. We all got together after work on the Friday to the local pub as a welcome for me for when I started, which was just like a really nice way to feel like settled and feel like a part of it. And yeah, it's just
That's
like
really good.
everybody just been so like welcoming and supportive. Yeah.
You feel that then you're part of the team then, don't you? You can then, being in that informal situation makes you feel as though when you are back in the office, you can say, excuse me, I've got a question. Yeah, no, that's really nice. Thank you, Emily, for that. Wiz, have you got anything to add to that one about kind of social experiences or networking groups or anything else you've been involved in?
Definitely. Yeah, there's always farm-based in London.
Oh, you've gone quiet. You've just slowly, this audio's disappeared on me. Okay, you know. Oh, you're really quiet. Try again. No. Can anyone else him?
No. We'll come back to his.
I'll come back to you, Wiz.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you.
Can't hear it all now.
Yeah, you've disappeared on me. Pippa.
So the scientists which I'm probably like spend a little bit more time with, they're quite a young group, and we're all planning on going paintballing in a week, just before I go back down to university. And yeah, it's similar where like every so often there's like a pub like on the way out of work in the closest village, which everybody will gather at every so often, same as Emily.
Pippa, are you old enough to drink yet?
I am, I'm 18.
Oh! Bless your heart, I love you. I shouldn't ask that live in a webinar, should I? It's a bit cheeky. Sorry, Pippa.
We get away with all sorts of these webinars.
Wiz, are you back now?
Hello?
You're back.
No, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know. I've literally been sat still the whole time. I don't know how.
Yeah, it's going.
You
You got
keep
like
going quiet. Sit
like
near to your
someone's got like this
computer.
on your volume.
Sit close to your computer.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I'm based in London, so there's always quite a lot of just like impromptu sort of not organized, just drinks after work. There's always quite a lot of like organized stuff. So there's like office football, office netball, office badminton. I actually went to Barcelona in September, and there's like a DNV like sort of European football championships, was pretty cool. So DNV UK had 3 teams, and then there was like teams from France, teams from like Norway, from Spain, from Italy, which is pretty cool. And every year it kind of changes place. So it was in Amsterdam the year before. I think it's Milan coming up. There's also sort of non-sport related stuff in London as well. That's like organised by DNV. So there's like a trip to the Panto next week. There's been
no, there isn't.
Pizza making. So yeah, there's all sorts. And there's also it sort of depends which department you're in. So my old team used to have like quite frequent team socials. Now I'm in renewables, which is a bit different. So London Renewables will have our own Christmas. There's a wider London Christmas party, but we've also got like our own Christmas lunch.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in terms of like networking and stuff, I've had some really great opportunities actually. So I've been to a couple of like the UK, like the DNV releases a report every year where lots of people, it's called the ETO, and lots of people in the industry get invited. I was lucky enough to attend a couple of those. Which is really great. You get to meet people who are way more important than you are. It's a bit takes a bit of getting used to, but it's like really good.
Great way to network though.
Yeah, definitely. And then I've done a couple of like Norwegian British Chamber of Commerce events as well.
Wow.
So like DNV quite often are sponsored or like sponsor events or are involved in events. So I've been to like a fancy bank, got to shake hands with lots of like bankers and stuff, and enjoy their like freebies as well. So yeah, it's pretty strong on that side, I think.
Perfect. Do you know what? You all sound like a very sociable bunch. I like it. Really, really good. George, sorry, last thing. You just mentioned earlier about moving just before we went live. I'm asking maybe in a Pippa, I do apologise again asking you.
You're all right.
Done that. But did you move for work? Did you say before?
Yeah, so yeah, I started off in the Loughborough office,
Yeah.
which was my home. So I was living at home with my parents after uni about 4 years. And I was like, right, time to fly the nest, as it were. In my sort of section, there's a couple teams that are based up in Stockport. So we've got an office in Stockport. And I've got some friends in Manchester. So yeah, it was more like moving for personal reasons, but there was that sort of opportunity with different teams sort of doing stuff as well. The stuff they do might be good for my chartership, so I might end up sort of doing a bit of work with those teams up here in Stockport as well. So yeah, no, it's nice. Obviously, there's offices like London, Loughborough, Stockport, Bristol, Aberdeen, and you get the opportunity on the grad program to go and visit all the different offices and sort of make friends in the different. So if I go down to London just for, you know, something at the weekend, I'll often maybe go down on the Friday or the Thursday and go into the London office and and just catch up with people. And yeah, so it's pretty handy for that as well.
Yeah, perfect. Now, Steve, I think you and Carla are going to tell us all about how to apply and what's going on next.
Yes, we are. Steve, I don't know why you shook your head at my joke, to be honest, but yes, you're going to talk about.
Ferocious. If I just said that, you would have told me off.
It's because it's my webinar. Head in hand situation. So what we're going to do now, like Jess just mentioned, and thank you all as well for your fantastic stories that you've gone through. It sounds like you've got some amazing experiences. And Steve, when you do open your opportunities on Gradcracker, tell the students a little bit more about the application process, please, and what they should expect.
Yeah, so I guess we try and keep ours as simple and ultimately as human as we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we've had some feedback, you know, when we've done them that they do tend to be a lot more engaging, a lot more personal than maybe some companies out there do. And we're able to do that. And we think it's a really important thing for us to do. So I think in summary, each of our roles are specific roles. As I mentioned, you're not applying to an overall program. You will ultimately be part of a program, but there's a specific role, and we hope that resonates with people. So some candidates out there would love to be doing, I don't know, stuff with their electrical engineering degree or with a maths degree, and certain roles will suit those more than others. And what we're trying to do with our overall process is align where people have got both the basic skills and education for those types of roles, but most importantly, the right motivations and behaviours. Yeah. So I think when people see our roles out there, they literally click on it, try to apply. We'll ask you probably half a dozen initial questions that just make sure you're in the right place with the role. So they often are around where the role is located. As George just said, we have a network of offices around the UK, but we want to put you where you're going to be surrounded by people who can help for some of the reasons that you've heard today. So we want to make sure that the offices that you'd be based from in a hybrid way, you've got that support around you. Likewise, you're studying the right either degree or you've got the right academic attainment from A levels. So we try to ask questions just to understand those, and then we get people to do some online game-based assessments where we're looking at which types of natural behaviours and skills do we think are most critical for certain roles that we have in our business. And we think that's really, really important to objectively assess that. It's very difficult when we get hundreds of applications every year to look at how do you make those decisions on who you shortlist down. And we want to do something which removes as much bias as possible from our recruitment processes. So we don't ask for CVs or cover letters, for instance. We think that only adds to bias within a recruitment process. So we don't ask for those. People still send them to us, but we don't use them as part of the process. And I think that that kind of mirrors all of our, whether it's graduate, apprenticeship or placement roles, we tend to go through that as a process. Those candidates that we feel are most aligned to a specific role, we tend then to invite them to an online briefing where they get to actually meet up with people of the team virtually and hear much more about the role that they've applied to. We're really aware that as we've tried to do today, you said, can I do it in 60 seconds? But we're very aware that each different part of our business is very complicated to get your head round sometimes. So we want to be able to help people understand what have they actually applied to and is it what they thought it was, and actually hear from people who do that role. So we think that's really important for them to get that understanding. We know a lot of companies don't do that. We think it's really important. And then the final stage of our process tends to be either an interview for some of our placement roles or a formal assessment centre for our graduate and apprenticeship opportunities. And our assessment centres, usually for graduate roles, they're done virtually. For our degree apprenticeship ones, especially where they've been at Spade Adam, which is such a unique environment, we like to get those people to come in and do an interview, do a group activity, meet up with some of our people who are going to be responsible for their development, so they get a really good feel for us and to be able to make a really good rounded decision on whether it's right for them as well as it's right for us.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Any hints and tips? How a student could be successful? You can have two.
I think the main bit is about being themselves. Our process is all organised around identifying what people's real motivations, natural behaviours and skills are, because we feel as though people will enjoy what they do more if we align them to things that they are most naturally suited to do. So that's at the heart of our process. So we want people to be themselves. We try to be really transparent with our process and about what we do and what they'll be doing if they come and join us, because we want it to be right for both of us. And I think that links in with just being prepared when you come to an interview or an assessment day. I think just have a bit of a think about what is it that they really want to do. I think that is so important because our people are so passionate about what they do. And sometimes if a candidate turns up and doesn't demonstrate that curiosity and interest in the role that they're sat in front of somebody for, it doesn't sometimes end in a successful outcome. So I think that natural passion and curiosity helps. And the final one I was just going to mention, Carla, and I mentioned this last time, but it is absolutely critical. We do want every candidate that comes through our process to feel and genuinely have the best possible opportunity to demonstrate their potential to us. So we don't want there to be barriers for them to be able to do that. So we do make sure throughout our recruitment journey with them that they have as much opportunity as possible to reach out to us, to tell us if they need any assistance or adjustments, or just if they just feel a bit nervous, they haven't done this before. You know, as I said, we try to be human, we try to be empathetic, and ultimately we want people to give of their best when they get here. So we want to make that as easy as possible for them.
Yeah, and Steve is definitely, you know, I know we take the mick out of each other, Steve, but Steve honestly is there for people who apply and have go through the stages. And you know, the amount of times that Steve's called me up afterwards to say, I've just been speaking to this person, she had a really good day, I had a really good day, and it's just lovely to see. And honestly, he's a lovely, lovely guy. So thank you again, Steve, for, I'll pay you later. You can pay me later, should I say. Thank you there for taking part of this webinar. I know we're running over a little bit, but I do want to kind of cover off one quick fire round before we close the webinar. So I do think it's really important to Steve and to DNV, and it's just talk about your favourite things. So Lizzie, I'm going to come to you. So again, a couple of sentences. What is your most favourite thing about DNV and why is it so important to you?
I think people, I've covered it a bit already, but you know, the fact that you can, it's a network-based organization, you get projects by chatting and you work through projects by chatting and you can find experts anywhere is amazing.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. George?
Yeah, I'd probably say like the opportunities that are available in the company. So obviously the amount of the range of different work and projects that people are doing, even within the same teams. It's 2-week project, 1-month project. You're not just fixed in doing the same thing forever. Yeah.
Brilliant. People, projects, Tyler.
Sorry, I thought I misheard you. Yes,
No, that's fine.
I would. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I would say the company, the support that the company provides for its employees and the new graduates, especially the amount of trainings and mentoring that it comes with the package in some ways, and definitely the people as well, because we, by the end of the day, we work with experts in different fields, and we gain lots of experience from them and lots of mentoring. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, so I think mine would be similar to what Steve said, where it's just how you can tell they're really trying to cater it towards what your specialties are and what you're really interested in, rather than just kind of like forcing you into this just like generic role. They really try to cater it towards what you're actually really interested in.
Yeah, fantastic. Personal touch again. Was there anything different that you'd like to add? Oh, I can't hear you at all now, even though you sat close to your computer. Maybe move away from your computer. No, can't hear you, Wiz. Have a play. We'll come back to you in a second. Pippa?
I'd probably just say that the amount of knowledge that you're surrounded by when you're in the office, like everybody's always like so passionate about what they're doing. They're always so like wanting to give you their information, like their knowledge that they have.
Perfect. Lovely. Wiz? No, can't hear you.
I'll nick Wiz's time then. Just in closing. You alluded earlier on, Carla, that we've updated our hub, and there is a page around why people work for us and what it is that drives them. And I think as you've heard here, whilst there's some overlaps there, our people are just like normal people, believe it or not, and they have individual motivations and things that they're passionate about. So I think there's a number of different things and themes that tend to come through. And I think that being surrounded by experts, actually from day one, getting put onto real world projects which make a difference to the planet around them. Usually they've joined us because they are passionate about those sorts of things, and getting a chance to be involved, work alongside some of the most incredible people on the planet is just phenomenal for people's development, and to feel as though you are actually doing something that matters. I'm maybe a little bit biased, but I think the stuff that we're doing really will leave a legacy for future generations, and I think being part of that is just fantastic. When you think about some of the other roles out there, do they have the same impact on the future? So I think that's one of the major things, that our people just love being part of and being valued as equals on those projects, as you've heard from some of our people today. We let people blow things up or stop from blowing things up in some of our teams.
Perfect. You're going to get told off that later on, Steve. Thank you, Steve, finishing that off. And I'm sorry, Wiz, that we couldn't hear from you. But if you email me your favourite thing, we'll make sure it goes on your hub as well. So you don't feel like it. Could I hear you then?
Now?
Can you hear me now?
Yay! Go for it quickly. Your favourite thing.
Okay, quickly. Yeah. Sorry. I'd say sort of kind of what Steve was saying. So it's really great just to be, I don't know, DNV is a foundation. Everything's driven by the strategy. But also like reason to have that feel. So you'll be speaking to someone, having like a joke with them, and they'll be like a thought leader in wind energy or something crazy. I think that's a really cool part of working for DNV.
Yeah, it just shows that you can all mingle together as well, isn't it? There's definitely that social aspect to DNV. So thank you, Wiz. I'm glad that we could hear that towards the end of the webinar. And thank you everybody for joining us today. Like we've just mentioned, or we've mentioned quite a few times now, the roles will be live on the DNV hub on Gradcracker within the next couple of weeks and into the new year. So don't forget to give DNV a quick follow to be alerted when those opportunities are live. This recording will be live as well if you want to go back and re-watch the webinar, or if you haven't watched it yet, hopefully you can watch the webinar, or else the bite-sized chunks that we'll put together. Oh, that's going to be a hard job for Morgan to put together. So good to put together all those bite-sized chunks, which will be live from tomorrow. And don't forget, me and Sophie will be back on Thursday, where we're joined by Atkins Realis. and we will see you all again soon.
Don't advertise another company.
You're
not allowed to do that.
I am. I could do what I want, my little peanut. Right. We shall see you all later. Steve, I'm going to ring you in the next 5 minutes so you can get told off. And everybody else, goodbye. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
guys.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
bye, bye.